I want to welcome my guest. It is Ryan Naylor, founder and CEO of VIVAHR. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And so I want to talk a little bit about you specifically. We'll talk about VIVAHR, and kind of our overall arching topic is, reputation in recruiting. There's a little bit when it comes to recruiting and hiring of a bit of a chicken and an egg scenario, in my opinion, of the companies that have, great culture, great structure, things like that, tend to recruit really good talent. However, you kind of need some talent to really buy into that to kind of go with it. So it's like, what comes first? How do I fix my company culture to bring in new people? I'm having trouble bringing in new people. And you saw a little bit of that. I know kind of a little bit of your background, and I want you to kind of explain a bit more is, you're in a marketing agency, I believe, for a little bit, and you kind of did some HR stuff, and you kind of start to develop a understanding of how companies really attract great talent. So first, let's go Ryan Naylor. Tell us where you're from and tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry.
Right on. Yeah. So I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Been here for over a decade. You're right. Started a marketing agency, but one of our core products that we built in-house in our marketing agency was a job board. And this job board focused on Arizona jobs only. It's called localwork.com. And we grew that up. And in a short period of time, when the unemployment rate was at double digits, this is our way to commit back to the community, help people find work faster. And over the next 5 years, we helped over 100,000 people get jobs because of localwork.com. We started doing live events. We were local media guests. We did over 300 television appearances on local media stations from TV and radio. And when we discovered our number of 100,000 people got jobs, we said, let's work that back. Let's go run some numbers and let's figure out why. What is it that the best companies were doing to attract the right people? What were the worst companies doing to miss out on those same great people? Because they were all hiring on the same platform, but a few companies tend to always get the best candidates. And at first it was, well, they obviously pay more. And that didn't always come out to be the truth. Well, they probably had more brand recognition. Well, actually, we had companies that you would never even know even existed, and they were always showing greater success in their hiring. So what was it that contributed to all their growth in the top 5% of companies? And it came down to the opening paragraph. Every one of the companies in our top 5% of companies attracting the right people had an opening paragraph talking about who they are as a business and why they exist. That means so much to a candidate when they can see a little bit of purpose behind it. They can see themselves aligning with that company vision right out the gate. And that's what we refer to as culture marketing. How do you promote what you do and why you do it before you talk about what you're going to do for me? And I think there's a big shift from a generational gap as well. I think a lot of your millennials, your new workforce, your people in that mid-level management, they care more about the alignment of the culture and the commitment to their lifestyle than they do about the functions of the job. And that goes a long ways to understand how to attract the right people.
Along those same lines, you see a lot more people investing in their employment, spending more time there. There's plenty of studies to talk about how the workday is organically kind of started to get a bit longer. Technology has helped us stay more connected. You've certainly seen it in 2020 with remote work. Is the big complaint we hear a lot more now is it's really hard to kind of shut the laptop down because it's not like you're catching a train to go home or anything like that. And so culture has always been a part of an employer, but it's grown exponentially over the past couple of years. Which brings back to kind of the chicken and the egg thing. How do you identify kind of your culture? Because when you go to start looking to kind of post your job and you talk about explaining your culture, some people might not have an understanding of what their company culture is. And in your opinion, how do you identify what your culture is and maybe where you need to make changes to make it better?
Well, I think it's sometimes easier to ask somebody else to explain your own company culture than you to do it yourself. You almost have a hard time because you're looking in the mirror, you're looking too closely, and you're projecting what you wish it were, or you're trying to cover up what it is. And what I always recommend is tell a transparent story. A lot of times, I work with a lot of home service-based businesses, right? And I see this over and over again. I'll have a landscaping company say, okay, we need to hire a new crew manager. And when we come up to the culture conversation, they want to project the fact that they're not a small company. They're trying to say, they're trying to make it look like they're this big conglomerate and they've got all these crews and they're covering the valley. When the reality is they got 2 crews, and and there's 8 people total in the company. Celebrate that. That is your culture. And if you try to project something that you're not, you're going to attract the wrong fit, because they're going to come in, and if they do accept the job, they're going to leave pretty quickly as well. And so what I found to attract the right people at the right stage is to openly tell that story. If you are a small business, there's so many benefits to that a lot of businesses in the larger stages wish they had. The transparency, the personal connection with employees, the ability to be flexible on work-life balance, and to be, a lot of that goes away the bigger you are. And so my biggest nugget to those smaller based businesses is tell your culture story of who you really are in the moment. And you'd be amazed how many people can align with that.
Because ultimately that's the A player you'll be looking for. Because if you're trying to pitch yourself as a big conglomerate and someone's coming in that wants to work for a large operation and they find out quickly it's a small operation, that's step one. You're already on the wrong foot there. I love that you talk about that you can't really, identify your own culture through. You can have what your goals are, but ultimately, it's other people kind of repeating the story back to you, which becomes that. It goes hand in hand. What we do at NiceJob from the reputation marketing element is you can claim to be the best, but if you're not having reviews to show that and you're not getting that feedback that's saying that, that's not your reputation. So if you're building good reputation, if you have a great company culture, you talk to your employees, they say, we love working here, and they kind of explain why. How can you specifically take that reputation and put it into your recruiting? Like, how big is the social proof element? It's great to hear, hi, I'm the owner of the company, this is what our culture is. But how much more does it mean when it comes from, employees, investors, or anything in that level?
Well, I'll tell you, there's some interesting data that's coming out showing that your average job seeker will engage with 13 pieces of content before deciding to actually apply to your job.
Wow.
Now that number skews right or left based on the industry and the experience required for that position. The more senior level, they're going to touch more pieces of content. The more junior level, they're just going to quickly apply, right? Mm-hmm. But with that medium of saying 13, guess what that includes? That includes a Google search, and that includes them putting in the name of your company plus the word reviews. If you don't take accountability and own that experience, you're letting other people control that experience for you. And that's what I think a lot of small businesses don't understand is even in the employment space, and that's why we call it culture marketing, you need to control that experience beyond just job description marketing. It's through and through. One of my favorite examples is if you go and you search for, say, Target reviews, think about Target, think about how many products they have. Their website is loaded with reviews. And guess what shows right up at the top? It's Indeed showing people that have reviewed working at that organization. That is above any other review platform. It's the employment reviews, but right behind it is Trustpilot, and right behind that is Glassdoor, another employment reviews. So you're seeing not only the importance of consumer reviews, but you're seeing the importance of having great employees that align with your core values from day one, because that will impact your business just as well. Because your customers are going to search the same thing, Joe's Landscaping reviews. And if they see a Glassdoor review and they see that the people at that organization have an approval rating of the CEO at 20%, they're going to go, whoa, if even their own people can't approve of the CEO, why would I do business with them?
Yeah.
So I think full circle, it's a chicken and the egg to your point earlier, but reviews are the same way. You've got to get the right people in there that can leave good employee reviews, but your consumer reviews will help you attract the right people to begin with.
And that's a great point of how many touch points, that people will see and where they kind of go, and getting the right things in front there. You mentioned towards the top about job descriptions. And I want to make a designation of if someone's going to say your career page versus the job listing itself. So on your career page, I'm assuming that that's where you really want to make sure that you're getting that reputation out there, you're marketing your culture, you're kind of having like, hey, here's what it's like to work here. But then for the job description, do you need to be more narrow focused? Because they've kind of gotten through that first layer. Now the next touch point, they want to know about the specific job. Can you talk about of what that job description should kind of look like? Or when they go from that, all right, career page, I know this is a place I want to work and I think I want this position, what should they see next?
This is actually probably the single biggest differentiator of VIVAHR, our product, compared to every other job posting software. We believe through and through, every company has company culture, and your careers page should showcase that. What is it like to work there? Your core values, your mission statement, what you believe in, and how you can accomplish that together, right? We can agree that's the purpose of a careers page. But VIVAHR believes there's micro culture at the job level. If you're a trucking company and you're hiring truck drivers, you're hiring diesel mechanics, and you're hiring a chief financial officer, the experience in working in that trucking company is totally different for all three of them. The trucker cares about the microculture of the support when they're on the road. What is the equipment? What does the safety look like? How many hours am I going to be driving every day? The diesel mechanic, he cares if there's free snacks. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so he cares about if the shop is, got air conditioning.
Yeah.
Whereas the CFO, he might be looking for a ping pong table. What does the break room look like? What's my view look like at my desk? So at the job level, you can tell a culture story that aligns with the job that complements the overall company culture. I hope that makes sense, that there's a degree of difference between company culture and then microculture at the job level.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I never really thought about that mentality of as you grow as a company, you're still going to be hiring, take a home service, you're still going to be hiring technicians, but the technician is going to be in a vastly different experience than a marketing manager or an office manager and something like that. If you're never going out on the truck in the road, then you do care about what the office space looks like. But if you're spending, 95% of the time working at that company on the road, it's okay, what does that look like? That's where my time is spent. So I never really thought about, as you put it, the microculture, and I love that phrase, the microculture is kind of within, and then perhaps even how they come together. So if I am going for a technician position and I see, kind of a review, a testimonial or a video or something from someone that would be my supervisor, and they talk about why they love and kind of what they're bringing to the table, I know that's my direct thing. I might not be talking to the president every day, but that individual for sure. It's amazing to look at how this ecosystem of kind of hiring and recruiting, there's so many different elements that are going to be personal, but you kind of have to be general, which kind of brings to the one thing I love about VIVAHR. It's about getting these job listings, accurately, but then getting them out everywhere. We talk about if you're getting reviews, get as many reviews as you can and get them everywhere because it's able to find. In your experience, what is the obviously there's an advantage of having ever more people see it, but is there an unknown advantage or something that you discovered with your time in VIVAHR of a benefit of making sure that your listing is in places that you might not think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think there were some planned discoveries when building VIVAHR. We took a lot of learnings from localwork.com that we were able to kind of build upon, but there was a lot of unknown learned factors. And the thing that I found the most fascinating is each of these job boards, we push a single job out to close to 100 different destinational feeds. And so your job can get seen on a lot of different spots. Now, some of those are niche sites and they only pick up certain categories, but for the most part, your average job is pushed to about 50 job boards is where it'll be found. And they receives organic traffic. Your average job seeker applies to 7 jobs per session. So you don't need to be position number 1 like you might be with Google Ads. There's a huge advantage to be number 1 in Google Ads and buy that top spot or the top 3 because that's kind of right at the top. But your average candidate, you don't care if you're position 1 or you're position 6 because you're going to get the same resume within a short amount of time. Now, thinking through that, why sponsor to be one of the first 3 jobs when you're going to get the same candidate at position 4, 5, 6, and 7. And so we learned a lot in the power of organic distribution. So companies, especially small businesses, don't have to pay a premium to get those candidates. But here's the unknown thing is you post your job and you sit back and wait for a week and you see which organic channel is delivering you the right resumes, the right applicants. And then you know where to spend your money to get more of them. Each job board tends to cater to different skill sets, different industry, even different geographical territories. So by publishing it organically to a lot of different sites with one click, you can then learn from that data and narrow in to get you better results.
And I'm sure you would find out a lot of home service professionals look to hire some people that don't necessarily, if they're a plumber, they don't want to hire a former plumber because they think they can teach some of those skills, but there's other elements they're looking at, the non-technical skills, that's going to help with their culture really align and really go with it. So you may not know where some of those, I call it cross-recruiting, where some of those people might be looking. They might be looking on different sites because it's what they're used to. So if you can appear in front of them, it would have to be a great advantage in that regard. Is there any advice that you have when it comes to the interviewing process? I've said this on a previous podcast, but part of my reason that coming to NiceJob was I love their company culture, but I also love their interview process there. It was video based. It was quick. I was able to kind of get in and have my interview go beyond my resume like very quickly, and the process was very quick. Is there anything either trend-wise or just in your experience that that you see that, all right, so they have their posting out, it's written brilliantly, they're starting to get applicants. Is there anything else they can do to ensure they have a great hiring culture?
I love that question because everyone overcomplicates it. And I'll tell you, simplifying is better. You just explained you love the simplicity and the quickness of it. That is what candidates want. If you create this drawn out experience, you're going to lose the candidate before you get them to the next stage. Before you even update your software and say, I'm moving them to this bucket, chances are they accept a job with a competitor. So simplify the experience. We recommend, obviously we're biased, but you can use this on any ATS or recruiting platform. You can templatize messages, make it quickly, review the resume, get up in the morning, take 30 minutes of the beginning of your day focused on the people side of your business, review your candidates and drop them a templatized email with a link to your calendar that's dedicated for your interview time slots and get them in the process. Consistency is key there. Waiting 30 days, then coming back and reviewing everyone at the same time is kind of the antiquated old way of recruiting. Time is of the essence, and the best candidates, the A players, get scooped up within 6 days. You can't wait 72 hours to reach out. If they're a good candidate, you got to reach out within 12.
So along those same lines, would you want to make sure that when you're posting a job that you are in the, like, we're ready to hire on board relatively quickly? Like, are gone are the days where you throw something out in the spring to hope to hire in summer?
Yeah, I think we always say plan 45 days out. And that's just to give yourself enough of a window of your hiring timeline. We see companies hiring much faster than that. But the reality is yeah, gone are the days when you're planning. You're always building a bench, though. That's the thing. I want people to understand, you always need to be building a bench. And in your mid-level performers, when they know that you're always building a bench and you're always recruiting the next level, it's going to help them step up their game. They're going to think twice about taking off at 3:30, a little bit early every day. When they know that someone's breathing down your neck, you got the next hire ready to go. And as an employer, we're not feeling held hostage to bad employees. I'm a small business owner, and nothing is more painful than that uncertainty of feeling hostage to a bad employee. Like, do I let her go? But she's got all the logins to my QuickBooks account. She knows all the key customers. Well, she does this good. And then I can never decide to let her go or not. But if I got a bench of A players ready to go, how much easier is that decision?
That leads me into a question one of our users, Caleb Winiger, posed when I asked if anyone had any burning recruiting questions. I thought it was really good. And he asked how do you keep your favorite prospects engaged while you're waiting for a position to open up? So you have a deep bench. How do you keep that bench or those prospects engaged if really, like, your hands are tied, you can't open up another position right away? Is there any advice you can give to kind of how to keep the bench activated?
Yeah, you know what? We have a client of ours that it showed me what they did with our product, and they were able to hook in Zapier. So every single candidate dropped right into a custom list inside their MailChimp account. And they were doing weekly email blasts to their nurtured prospects. And what they found is that even months later, when they had a position open up and they needed to fill it yesterday, they could call a candidate and they'd always accept a call. Oh, I remember you. I love your emails. And then in the emails, they drop in little videos. They drop in simple little get to know you, get to know the CEO, the culture component, links to their Instagram account. And when a candidate gets that phone call from the owner and they've been nurtured, it feels like almost like a surreal moment and they get super excited about it. So I would say content, 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 engaging with them on social media content, email content, and then integrating text messages, dropping a quick text. Hey, we just want to check in, let you know we still think of you. You're a great candidate. As soon as the position opens up, I hope that you'll accept my call.
Is there any risk potentially? I know I was in a situation where I applied for a full-time job, but the only thing that was kind of available was an internship in my particular field. Is there any risk to something like that of trying to just get them in? Like, you don't want to offend someone to say like, hey, I don't have that, but would you want to be an intern? But something about just keeping them a bit closer, or maybe even kind of being able to experience so you can almost prioritize your bench and figure out who your true top candidate is among your favorites.
Well, I think you need to sketch out to say, if I come across an A player, am I prepared to hire them today? And that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. There's a lot of businesses that'll say, if that right person comes along, I'll do whatever it takes to hire him. Make that decision before you post the job. The second is create a plan of nurture and engagement, which we talked through. And then the third is, what are the alternate positions to say, you applied to this job and your skill sets align over here. And I'll tell you what, if we can make it work here, let's find a way to roll you over to this other position over the next 6 months. I don't see that being a problem at all. And I see a lot of companies doing it, especially as labor is tight. They see the right soft skill attributes. Maybe that's the right thing to do to get someone into your framework. They understand your business process so that when they feel trained up, you got an A player ready to go.
And A players kind of bring in and recruit more A players is always kind of the standing. So if you can start doing that. So I guess that would almost be the advice to someone that feels like, okay, I'm looking around and like I've heard it. The people are like, I would get rid of my whole team right now. Like I'm just so frustrated. When you get the one A player that's unfortunately at the moment surrounded by the C players, is there anything you can do to make sure that they're willing to kind of stick through the long haul? Is it as simple as just making sure you're kind of promoting and feeding them a bit more, or is there some other way, or is the avenue try to get them involved in actively recruiting?
Yeah, I think I know the quickest way to lose your A players is to hire more C players. So if you want to get rid of your A players, just keep hiring C players, or don't let go of your C players. A players want to be surrounded by other A players. They want to be challenged. They want to be respected, and they want to feel like there's mutual cultural alignment. It goes back to the culture component. A culture cannot be consistently A player culture or C player culture. It can't jump around. It's one or the other. And chances are the C players will drag the A player out of the organization. So the quickest way to say, keep your A player around, get rid of your C players. And yeah, ask your A players, say, hey, let's get more people like you. Help me out. I think that's a great way. Get them bought into feeling like they're helping attract people into the organization. Now that can be indirect as well. That can be they're just part of a group round interview. They can give some feedback on the candidates so they can take a little bit of emotional accountability when that person does get hired. They feel a little bit of connection to say, hey, let me help train you. Let me help give you the ropes. Here's my cell number. I think that goes a long ways.
And it's all fantastic stuff. I want to circle back a bit to VIVAHR because you talked about being able to post everywhere. That automation has to save so much time. And hiring, we talked about, you want to be a kind of a quick process. So it might be something that you have to spend some time, just on interviews, reading an email, things like that, it's got to be a big, huge time saver. I just want to get your general thoughts on automation and why it's so important in a business to look for automated tools to kind of save, and what big advantage that is that if you're automating processes as opposed to doing everything manually.
You know what? Today's business that runs on 3 employees would take 50 employees 15 years ago. I mean, you can do so much and have so much more bandwidth by just saying, here's $1,000 a month. I'm going to invest into automation tools. And that's from the right automation email software, marketing software, review software, hiring software. That $1,000 a month that could eliminate 8 positions, 8 full-time positions when structured the right way. And I think that people need to realize that, yeah, there's an emotional expense, there's a time commitment expense, and there's the actual dollar expense. But over time, it will pay back 10x, hands down. And I think that, as I'm a small business owner myself. I happen to run a couple different programs. That has single-handedly been my biggest advantage over competition, is that anytime I look to do a task, I ask myself, can this be repeated by a tool or a software? And if it can, I do whatever it takes to do it again, so that I'm not manually doing those processes over and over and over again. And that's really kind of the framework for hiring. If you can get it down and say, here's how I attract A players, here's how I can repeat the process, and then you just turn it on, that's game changing.
That's probably an opportunity to eliminate some C players as well, is perhaps they're doing jobs that can, be helped with automation, if not done completely, that'll allow you to eliminate, build an A player culture, and then start building around that. And then, if you bring in A players and you give them automation to kind of allow them to really thrive, that's a quick way to grow right there. Is there anything that I always love to ask people that are experts in their field, this very general question, because I feel like everyone's got the little itch that doesn't usually come up in a lot of conversation when it goes, but is there the one myth or the one thought that you would just love to be able to hey, just so you know, that's wrong, or let's stop doing that? For me, one of my sort of things when it comes to marketing and things like that is stop doing something that was done in the past because you think it works. If you don't know it works, stop doing it. That's my big gripe. Is there anything from either hiring or HR or anything like that you just want to be hey, this is actually dead. I'm putting my flag in the ground. This is dead.
Yeah, no, there's one that completely comes to mind. Kevin Costner absolutely ruined entrepreneurship by saying, if you'll build it, they will come. The Field of Dreams movie absolutely ruined entrepreneurship. If you build a business and you just put your flag in the ground and say, I've got a plumbing company, customers don't just show up. And just because you have a company and you're hiring, just because you say I'm hiring doesn't mean you're going to have great people show up to your business. They won't just come from the cornfields. They just don't happen. If you want A players, you need to put in the time, you need to put in the energy to do it, but it will change your business. It absolutely will change it. And so that's my myth, is people think, I'll just throw up a job ad and I'm just going to copy and paste a template from over here and I'm going to attract the right people. And that's frankly wrong. You have to take the time to mold it and create the structure. But then once you do, you can use tools like VIVAHR or there's dozens of them and automate that hiring experience.
I love that answer because it's spot on, and it gives me the opportunity to reach out to Kevin Costner for a rebuttal. So, who knows? Stay tuned for season 2. We might have Kevin Costner on to defend his Field of Dream hiring stance. Well, Ryan, I appreciate it. As I said at the top of the show, we really haven't interacted before and everything like that. I just kind of saw, some of the knowledge that you were spreading around, and I thought our community could really benefit from it. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast here. If people want to find out more either about you or VIVAHR, where should we send them towards?
Jump on Facebook, VIVAHR. We've also got some groups where we're supporting and always dropping information. We have a group called the Contractor Growth Group. But jump on our website. Our support team is absolutely fantastic. You can get support, just even advice about your job ads and not even being a customer. I think that's probably the best place to start, is get some feedback from some professionals, whether it's us, just hire, an HR consultant for a couple of hours. And the people side of your business tends to be the number one problem business owners face. So let's work at eliminating that. Let's get rid of those problems.
Fantastic. Well, again, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us here on the Nice Job Podcast for another live chat. I told you at the top of the show, you were going to hear something that you were going to take away from that, and we surely did it. So, Ryan, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. I think we should do some more things like this.
Love it. Thank you so much.
And for all of you out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you're watching this on the replay and you left a comment below, you had a question or anything like that, we will make sure it gets answered. And if you're listening to the audio version or watch on YouTube, like, subscribe, share it, take a screenshot and put it on a t-shirt. Just show us that you're loving the fact that expert information is coming your way. Can't wait for another great episode next week. Until then, make sure you're staying healthy, make sure you're staying safe, and have a little fun out there as well. Take care, everybody.